Empire.
Welcome to Inside the Cap. I'm your host, Joel Corey. You can find me on Twitter at Corey Joel. That's CORRYJOEL. And also read my regular CBSSports.com column, Agent's Take on NFL contract and salary cap matters. The Odell Beckham Jr. saga finally came to an end on Thursday when he decided to sign with the Los Angeles Rams. Beckham is getting a base salary of $750,000 for the rest of the year, signing bonus of $500,000, so he's going to make $1.25 in base salary. That's kind of close to what Deshaun Jackson is getting for the Raiders for the rest of the year. Jackson's got a $1 million base salary to play in Las Vegas for the remainder of the 2021 season. Beckham has $3 million worth of incentives, $500,000 for the Rams playing in a wild card game or getting a bye, plus he's on the active roster and plays one play in the game, $750,000 for divisional playoff win. Same other requirements on the active roster and plays one play in the game, $750,000 for NFC Championship game win, plus the $750,000 plus the active game requirement and playing a play. $500,000 for Super Bowl, for getting the Super Bowl, and $1 million for a Super Bowl win. Maxes out at $3 million for the incentives. Can make $4.25 million max for the season. To me, when he first signed, I was like, well, he's really a luxury, not a necessity. But that changed on Friday. Robert Woods tore his ACL in a Friday practice, so now Odell becomes more of a necessity. One thing you don't realize about Robert Woods is he's quietly been one of the most productive receivers in the NFL in the past couple of years. Since the start of the 2018 season, Woods is 7th in catches with 311 and 9th in receiving yards with 3,845. Nobody really thinks of Robert Woods being that productive, but that's been the case. This year he's 15th in targets in the NFL so far, 70, and has 45 catches, 556 yards, receiving yards, and 4 touchdowns. So we're going to get a chance now to see what Odell still has as a player, whether it's going to be like, maybe not to the same degree, but kind of the Randy Moss lull when Moss went to the Raiders and the only thing they could get was a 4th-round pick and a trade of him with New England. And then he goes back to being the Randy Moss in Minnesota when he gets with Tom Brady. So we'll see what Odell has, whether he can still be an elite receiver. No one is going to there's no chance he's going to come in and supplant Cooper Kupp as the focal point of the offense. But the Rams now need him to replace the production of Robert Woods, as is presumably their number 2 option in the passing game. Presumably, 2nd-round pick from last year, Van Jefferson, remains in the same position he's been as the 3rd receiver once Odell gets up to speed. Monday night, may return punts, may have a package of plays, but then I would say the 4th quarter of the regular season will be the best barometer in the playoffs in terms of what Odell really is, because by then he should have a pretty firm grasp on the offense, or at least a much better grasp than he does today. Now, the fact that Odell went to the Rams and he said his top priority was going to a contender which could win a Super Bowl kind of signifies to me that it wasn't about a cash grab, because there were other teams which you would think would have been in a position to pay more, like the Seahawks, because of the cap space they had, over $12 million, that they were in a position that they could have outbid anybody because their cap constraints with most of the other teams that were potentially interested in him. Green Bay supposedly was offering league veteran minimum, and I assume incentives. Kansas City didn't have a ton of cap room. as well. They were in the mix. The Saints were close to being capped out, right around $1 million of cap space. So that was a team which had some interest in trading for him. So, because to me, the idea would be to put yourself in the best position to, more so than money, and that wouldn't be Seattle, opportunity, and that may be the Rams now, to potentially get yourself in a position to recoup the money you lost off of your contract. And by that I mean the future years, because there's no way he was going to be playing for $15 million over the next 2 years. He had $30 million left in 2022 and 2023 for the contract with the Browns. They were going to either trade him, there wasn't a market for him this year at the trading deadline, or cut him. So the idea would be to try to resurrect yourself to the point where you can get significant money. That might be here now because of the Robert Woods injury. Now, there's talk, at least reported talk, that they're looking at this more than him just being a hired gun for the season to help them get over the hump and win the Super Bowl, and this could be a long-term arrangement. But that would require the Rams investing or devoting a lot of resources to the wide receiver position, because they paid Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods essentially at the same time. Into training camp, early part of the regular season in 2020, they've signed similar deals. Cooper Kupp, 3-year extension, averaging $15.75 million per year on the base value. Robert Woods, 4-year extension, $16.25 million average on the base value. So you wouldn't be able, because of the way the contracts are structured, to just, okay, we're going to swap out Robert Woods and have Odell come in and take his place on a go-forward basis if he looks like the Odell with the Giants. And here's why. Because of the way the Robert Woods contract is structured, that he's under contract through 2025. There was a little over $31.7 million in guarantees. Now, he's got a cap number next year, 15.7, $13.5 million salary. $3.5 million fifth day of the league year roster bonus, which became fully guaranteed on the fifth day of the 2021 league year this past March. Now, the $10 million is guaranteed for injury, the base salary of 2022. The $10 million is guaranteed for injury. It becomes fully guaranteed on the fifth day of the 2022 league year, which would be March 20th, I believe. Now, this upcoming March 20th. The injury guarantee is going to kick in because there's no way you can pass a physical after tearing your ACL in November come March. That's not physically possible. So they're not going to just decide, you know what, we're going to cut Robert Woods, because there's proration, which would be in the contract in 2023 at $6.4 million. So you'd be responsible for the 13.5. The injury guarantee would kick in. So you got the 3.5 already guaranteed. The $10 million, the injury guarantee kicks in. That's 13.5. And his cap number right now is 15.7. You've got $6.4 million of proration from the remaining years that would accelerate onto your cap. So you're not going to add to your cap to swap him out. So you could make him a post-June 1 designation, potentially be cap neutral, hope he's going to sign someplace else, and then recoup part of the guarantee because they're being offset. But most likely scenario that if this would be a potential long-term thing for Odell would be he signs for whatever he signs for, and it's got a low cap number in 2022, ballooning cap number in 2023. Woods would be expendable in 2023. You'd have the $6.4 million of dead money. He's got a cap number in 2023 of $15.95 million. So you would pick up $9.55 million in 2023 should that's what you decide to do. Now, if Odell plays really well, the Rams are going to have, then he could have a strong free agent market, and the Rams have competition. As much as he says he wants to be there, money can talk. So we'll see what happens. But in any event, Odell Beckham Jr. and the rest of the NFL is going to find out whether he is an old Odell Beckham Jr. and what we saw in Cleveland is what he actually is, or it was really he and Baker Mayfield aren't on the same page, and this guy is still what we saw with the Giants. One thing we do know for sure is that he's playing with the best quarterback he's ever had in his career in Matthew Stafford.
This episode is brought to you by My First Million. Hosts Sean Purry and Sam Parr have each started and sold tens of millions of dollars worth of businesses. And each week, they leverage their experience and team of researchers to spoon-feed you new business ideas. That way you can discover the next big thing before it explodes. Like Austin Coker. He started Comfort Plants, which now makes $10K a month or more. Listen to My First Million on Spotify today.
This episode is brought to you by VMware. What more could you do if you unleashed the power of all clouds? Learn how VMware cross-cloud services can help your business navigate change faster. Visit vmware.com/welcome.
We also saw something interesting this week, or I should say last week. The quarterback position in Carolina came full circle with a reunion with Cam Newton. When Matt Rule got the job last year in 2020, Cam was still under contract. He had 1 year remaining at $18.6 million, and they released him in late March. They went with Teddy Bridgewater as a quarterback. They signed Teddy Bridgewater, $63 million over 3 years, $33 million fully guaranteed, $15 million signing bonus. Well, Teddy Bridgewater, they didn't like what he did last year, so they decided to move on. They go out and give up a 2021 sixth-round pick, 222 picks, the second-round pick, and the fourth-round pick in 2022 to get Sam Darnold from the Jets. Now, Sam Darnold's salary for this year, between his base salary and his training camp roster bonus, which were both fully guaranteed, just under $4.775 million. And then they exercised the fifth-year option, which had to be done by May 3rd, for $18.858 million. This thing has gone from Cam Newton, who they didn't want, to Teddy Bridgewater, that they soured on quickly, to Sam Darnold, who has stunk up the joint this year, to now they go out and bring Cam Newton back. But before they brought Cam Newton back, they had poached Matt Barkley off the Tennessee Titans practice squad. Now, what you couldn't do with that fan base is, hey, Cam Newton's still sitting out there available, and we need a quarterback because Darnold's got a fractured scapula. He's out a minimum of 4 to 6 weeks. He's on IR, maybe out the whole year. I think he won't play another down here, even if he is healthy. Is sign Barkley to be the replacement when Cam's sitting out there. That's not going to fly. Now, I think part of this Cam Newton signing reeks of desperation with the contract, which I'll get to in a second, but also fan base, sell tickets. That's one thing Cam can do. I'd be surprised if you get to 2015 Cam, who won the Super Bowl, who was the league MVP and got them to the Super Bowl. He's the most iconic player in the franchise's history, so there's going to be that value, and that translates into ticket sales. But the interesting thing to me is the contract. Cam Newton got released at the roster cutdowns, or right around that time, before the season started, by the Patriots. He'd signed a 1-year deal for base value of $5.1 million with $5.5 million in incentives. He had a $2 million signing bonus, $1.5 million fully guaranteed base salary. He made $100,000 in workout bonus, and he had per game roster bonuses totaling $1.5 million. That's $3.6 million he made, $3.5 million guaranteed. This Carolina deal, it has a base value of $6 million, $2.25 million signing bonus, $2.25 million base salary he's going to make for the rest of the year, which is guaranteed. So that's $4.5 million guaranteed to come to Carolina in the middle of the season when nobody is beating down the door to sign Cam Newton. One team that you thought would have, the Washington football team, because he knows that offense better than any other offense. Doesn't have to learn a new offense like here with Joe Brady as the offensive coordinator. Ryan Fitzpatrick, as it turns out, probably is out for the rest of the season. Tyler Heineke has been inconsistent, But Ron Rivera did not want him. And if he had, he certainly wasn't going to pay him this type of money. So Cam Newton gets more guaranteed money to sign in the middle of the season than he got to go back to the Patriots back in March when everybody had, multiple teams had quarterback needs. And here it's basically nobody's getting signed unless there's a real need at quarterback. There is one here. He took advantage of it. More power to him. But that's interesting to me that he's got more money guaranteed now than he did in the New England deal. Now, he's also got $1.5 million in per game roster bonuses. I think it breaks down to $187,500 per game that he's active. There are $4 million in incentives in this deal. I think it's $500,000 and 50% play time for each playoff win. Maxes out at $1.5 million. He's got $1.5 million for a Super Bowl win and 50% play time and $1 million for a Super Bowl MVP. Now, Cam is not making the 3.6 from New England and the $6 million potentially in base value, assuming he's active every game from Carolina, because that $1.5 million with the New England Patriots had an offset. So they get to recoup the $1.5 million from the Carolina money. So he's not double dipping. He's going to make 4 or 5, assuming he earns the all the roster bonuses. They're going to get a cap credit in 2022 for recouping the 1.5 because of the offset. So Cam's going to net out a minimum of 4 or 5, you would think, if he's active every game in Carolina. Great deal for him at this time of the year. Wouldn't expect it. I thought it might be close to the league minimum, but hey, they say that potentially he could be the starter in 2022 if he plays well. I'll believe it when I see it. I just think this is him for the rest of the year. But Carolina Panthers have created a blueprint for how not to find a successor in quarterback, because turns out they paid Teddy Bridgewater $31,015,625 to play one season at quarterback. And the reason I say that is when Bridgewater was traded, because they promptly got rid of him after acquiring Donald, they ate $7 million of salary essentially in the trade to Denver. They got the 6th-round pick back essentially that they gave up for Darnold, but he made close to $24 million last year. It's $7,062,000 that they're paying him to be in Denver. Denver's only paying him between the roster bonuses and base salary $4,437,500. So he's making $11.5 this year total. He was supposed to make 18, but he had $10 million, which was fully guaranteed. So between what they paid him in 2020 and also the $7 million to have him go away, that's where the $31 million comes from. And that's, to put it in perspective, or a different perspective, Dak Prescott's exclusive franchise tag for Dallas was $31.409 million in 2020. So essentially they paid Teddy Bridgewater almost the franchise tag. Now, then they go out and get Darnold. The problem is exercising the option. They might have been better off under the old rules before the new CBA. The 2018 draft class is the first draft class where the option is fully guaranteed upon exercise. It used to be it was guaranteed for injury upon exercise and fully guaranteed the first day of the following league year, but also the calculation was different. It wasn't based on performance like now. It was based on your draft position, so the number would have been $23.016 million instead of the $18.858, so about a $4.5 million difference. And you would think, had it been the old system, after he got benched for poor performance against the Giants, they never would have put him back out on the field. He'd been healthy to avoid getting out of the $23 million and been able to pick that up as cap room and just let him go and go with P.J. Walker and then sign Cam or whomever. I don't think Darnold ever plays another meaningful snap for Carolina. So to find a replacement so far, that's $31 million for Bridgewater. You've got this $6 million that you're going to be paying Cam, assuming he's active each game. I'm not going to put them in the playoffs. And you've got this basically 23.5 that you're paying Darnold because you got the option year. So that's $60,648,310 you've got in the quarterback position to try to replace Cam Newton in cash, and you're going back to Cam Newton. Probably won't start or play much, if at all, against the Cardinals today. But next week against the Washington football team at home, he will be presumably the starting quarterback. So maybe, in hindsight, you would have been better off, optics be damned, because of these sexual assault allegations still hanging over Deshaun Watson, convincing him to waive the no-trade clause, giving up your 3 first-round picks and the additional compensation that the Texans want, have your quarterback for the future, probably would be suspended for 6 to 8 games on the personal conduct policy, even if there is no criminal charges against him, because that's how things have worked in the past. And all this assumes that there's no other information that comes to light that is more damaging, and go from there. But the Carolina Panthers haven't found a quarterback of the future any more than when they let Cam Newton go in March of 2020. And I don't think their starting quarterback for 2022 is currently on the roster. I wish Cam Newton the best. Hope it's a great reunion and he turns back the clock, but I'll believe it when I see it.
The Timberwolves select Kevin Garnett from Farragut Academy.
A high school kid? No chance.
Here goes the brand new flavor.
You saw the future of what basketball was about to become.
He does whatever it takes to win a basketball game. All I know is all out. Abdul, what's up? I want to be challenged to the end. Anything's possible!
Kevin Garnett, Anything is Possible. Now streaming on Showtime.
We also saw the rare, lucrative mid-season contract extension last week. Not just one, but 2, and both by the same team, the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns first extended Wyatt Teller's contract. Right guard, who was in a contract year, ended up signing a 4-year, $56.8 million extension with just a shade under $16.6 million fully guaranteed and just over $29 million in total guarantees. The practical full guarantee is $29 million because Teller's 2023 base salary of $12.5 million becomes fully guaranteed on the 3rd day of the 2022 league year, and he's not going to get cut before then. That deal made him the second highest paid offensive guard by average salary, behind Joe Thuney, who signed for $16 million per year on a 5-year deal to go to Kansas City in free agency. Then a day later, left guard Joel Bitonio, who was under contract through 2022, signs a deal which is reportedly worth $48 million over 3 years. I don't know if that's base value or max value, but they're both under contract through the 2025 season. I'm going to assume Bitonio's deal is base value, so that ties him in terms of average salary as the highest paid offensive guard in the NFL with Thuney. Now, the Browns are taking the Dallas Cowboys approach. Let's build this team through the trenches. Starts in the trenches. The Cowboys invested a ton of money in their offensive line with Tyron Smith, the now retired Travis Frederick, Zach Martin at right guard, and then it paid Lyle Collins pretty significant money as well. So this is what Cleveland's now doing, because at least from the interior of the offensive line, they have 2 of the 3 highest paid guards in Bitonio and Teller. J.C. Treader, the center, by average salary, is the 5th highest paid center. And Jack Conklin at right tackle is, before the right tackle explosion, was one of the highest paid right tackles, but that market has shifted dramatically over the since the offseason, but still, $14 million per year, it's still a pretty healthy salary. Jedrick Willis on the left side, left tackle, rookie deal, so I have to pay him for the time being. But this goes with the Browns being a proactive team. They take care of their core players sooner rather than later. That's something that they did last year with Myles Garrett, 2 years left on his rookie contract. Made him the first $25 million per year defensive player. Great signing because he's a leading candidate for defensive player of the year. Had they let this thing play out, he's the first $30 million per year guy. Nick Chubb was in a contract year. Got him done before the season started. Deal averages right around $12 million per year. But these midseason extensions really don't happen very often. Last year, David Bakhtiari, end of October, Packers made him the highest paid left tackle. Then in 2019, the Packers made him the highest paid offensive tackle, I should have said if I didn't say that. The Eagles had two signings kind of reminiscent of this one, right around the same time. Right tackle Lane Johnson, right guard Brandon Brooks. Both reset the market at their respective positions. Johnson, the whole tackle market, became the highest paid tackle. Brooks, highest paid guard in 2019. Now this year you see two Browns guys on the offensive line. It seems like there's a trend here. Offensive lineman last year, offensive lineman 2019, offensive lineman this year with the Browns. The interesting thing to me on choice of extension is they reportedly have been talking to or had at least preliminary discussions with Denzel Ward. I thought that was going to be a really hard deal to do, who's under contract through 2022. His fifth-year option next year is $13.294 million. And the reason I say that is he's represented by Torrey Dandy. Torrey Dandy also represents Marshawn Lattimore, who right at the start of the regular season became the second highest paid corner in the league, with a deal averaging just over $19.5 million per year. If Dandy does things the way I used to as an agent, that deal was going to always be the floor for Denzel Ward. So there's no way you could get a deal done for Denzel Ward which wasn't going to put him at least as the second highest paid corner ahead of Lattimore. And he probably wants to be the highest paid corner ahead of Jalen Ramsey at $20 million per year. So I understand why that deal didn't get done for reasons which should speak for themselves. Baker Mayfield, who was the first overall pick the same year Ward was taken, hasn't gotten a deal done. Between his lack of connection with Odell Beckham Jr., the chemistry problems, his inconsistency this year, maybe partially caused because of the shoulder injury, I wouldn't be doing Baker Mayfield right now. I'd be taking a wait-and-see approach with him as well. But to me, it was just interesting that the Browns went ahead and have taken care of the offensive line. Now, getting into more specifics about Teller's deal, the way it's structured, he got a signing bonus of $5,631,500, and his base salary, which was $2.183 million, drops to $920 for the rest of the season. So what this does, it's gonna, because you can prorate the signing bonus over 5 years, so the proration is $1,126,300, 2021 through 2025. With the base salary dropping, he ends up making $1,551,500 in base salary for the year. So between that and the signing bonus proration, the cap increase for this year is $494,800. They kept the cap number low for 2022. He's got a $9 million option bonus, which they're going to exercise. I'm assuming it's like they do their other deals. He's got a $1.5 million fully guaranteed base salary. And the way they encourage the option to get exercised is the base salary is $10.5 million. If they don't exercise the option, they exercise it, it reduces to $1.5. The $9 million option bonus, I'm assuming they didn't add avoiding dummy year for a fifth-year probation. Proration. So the option bonus would get prorated to $2.25 million on the cap 2022 through 2025. So the 2022 cap number is going to be low as well. Assuming the options exercise, which it should be, the cap number will be $4.876 million. So cap number, nominal change this year. Next year, $4.876 million. Had he played out the deal, he's probably gone unless they wanted to stick a franchise tag on him. And I project the franchise tag for offensive linemen, and they don't make a distinction between guards, tackles, centers. It's one size fits all. And you hadn't seen an interior offensive lineman get franchised until last year since Logan Mankins. And I think that was 2011 or when Mankins was franchised. Also Ron Khalil that same year. You hadn't seen interior linemen. So basically about 10 years until first Joe Thuney and Brandon Sheriff of the Washington football team. Sheriff had another franchise tag this year. But I project that tag at the $208.2 million salary cap ceiling to be 7.88% of the cap, which would be $16.631 million. Didn't really see that happening. Anytime we've seen in recent history, you let a Pro Bowl caliber guard hit the open market, and Teller was having another Pro Bowl caliber year, they reset the market. I anticipate Scherf, even though he's been hurt this year, comes back from injury and plays like he's always played, despite the injury history, will be the highest paid guard. Potentially that could have been Teller, because you've seen it happen with Kelechi Osemele, Kevin Zeitler, Andrew Norwell, and then Joe Thuney. So there seems to be a trend. To me, the type of deal before the season started, which would have made me comfortable or at least gotten my attention, at least we're going to have to make him, Teller that is, one of the 5 highest paid guards in the NFL. And going into the season, the average of the 5 highest paid guards' contracts was $13,418,750. The average length was 4.8 new years. So he's getting a little bit more than that. Could Teller have gotten more on the open market? Possibly, but we've hit the acceptable range, at least in my opinion, of where a deal gets done. In terms of keeping these first 2 cap numbers low, 21 and 2022, and then 2023, the money's fully guaranteed next March, so you can't get rid of him there. The first realistic time you could cut Teller would be in 2024. He's got a cap number of $17.376 million, but assuming I'm right that there isn't an extra year of avoiding dummy years so they could stretch out the proration another year, between the low signing bonus and the option bonus, if you cut Teller in 2024, there's no guaranteed money in 2024. There is a $2 million third day of the league year roster bonus, so you'd have to cut him before then. You'd have $6,752,600 of dead money. So you'd pick up $10,623,400 on the cap if you got rid of Teller in 2024. So he is there at least through the 2023 season. I don't have any details on Bitonio's deal, besides the fact that it's a reported 48 over 3 years on the extension. I don't know if that's base value, max value, but we do know one thing, that the Browns are committed to building through the trenches. The foundation of the team is staying with that run game. I expect the next deal to be Denzel Ward over Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield plays lights out for the rest of the year, kind of like he did second half of last year. They get to the playoffs, and he plays well, and they make a deep playoff run. Maybe the totem pole changes, the pecking order. But Browns continue to be proactive with their core players, and we'll see where they go from here for the rest of the season and then during the off season. Well, that's going to be it for this week's Inside the Cap. Don't forget, you can find me on Twitter at Corey Joel. That's CORRYJOEL. And you can read my CBSSports.com Agents Take as well. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you back here next time. Goodbye.